Today we discussed about few important things when it comes to our Power BI. Let's have a small recap with respect to that. Power BI has a business suite. It has some key points over there where it is used for interactive visualizations, evaluations, analysis, sharing your reports, and so on. Types of your Power BI platforms: desktop, Power BI service, mobile, using your different version types like desktop, service, mobile apps, gateway, embedded, report server, and your marketplaces. Key components: Power Pivot used for modeling, Power Query used for transformation, Power View used for viewing your reports, Power Map used for map visualizations, Power Service is for publishing our reports. Power BI Gateway is to keep our reports updated. We need a gateway, data catalog, reusing your same data sets to build multiple reports. Power BI Q&A, where it will answer all our queries with a response. And the default architecture which it follows: hundreds of data sources. We connect them to your Power BI desktop app and then publish it in your service account. We have a gateways coming up over there. Then we access with respect to using our web apps like service accounts, mobiles, and so on. Power BI building blocks like reports, visualizations, data sets, dashboards, and tiles, where reports contains all the data set which is required to build visualizations, and the topmost prioritized ones where we would like to pin it on a dashboard. We have them, and we'll also call them as tiles. Data limit is like 10 GB per user for your pro accounts and your premium accounts. And then we can have some 8 scheduled refreshes in a day. We can also have some 48 scheduled refreshes coming up for your premium accounts. 100 plus data connectors in your Power BI. Competitors like Tableau, ClickSense, ThruSpot, Looker doesn't stand a chance against your Power BI because of the data model approach we follow, which is a star schema. Coming to your market trends, Power BI is doing great in terms of usability in the market, the cost involved in your pricings like Power BI Pro contains $9.99 per user per month, and Power BI Premium contains $4,995 per month, whereas $20 per user per month for your premium license per user. Desktop concepts like report view, data view, and relationship view. Small glimpse of how we get data using the Power BI desktop. So this is where we have worked on until now. Now let's discuss about the connection types involved using the Power BI. So whenever we connected data to the Power BI, it has its own connection types. Let us suppose we are trying to use an Excel. It follows by default an import connection. Whenever we're trying to connect a SQL server, you can have two different type of connections. You can either choose import mode or you can also choose a direct query. When you're trying to connect an analysis services tabular method, you can have a live connection from it directly. Using a combination of both direct query and import mode is a composite mode. Now let's discuss about what import mode does completely. When you're trying to use an import mode for a flat file like your CSV file or an Excel file, which is there by default, it can be used for full reporting. No data is stored in the memory. Full data transformations, full data modeling, high in performance. Import mode always has high in performance. Data is stored in the Power BI. So whenever I say when you're trying to use an import mode, what happens to the data? Data is stored in the Power BI because it imported all the data from your Excel file to your Power BI. So the data is stored in Power BI. That is why you have a high performance. So once you have already imported to your Power BI, there is no need for the queries to send back to the source. That is why queries are not sent to source. Yes, a refresh is always required to keep your data updated. It supports Q&A and it also has quick insights. So this is about the import mode. So let's look at the visuals down here. The data source could be a SQL data plus 60 more data connectors, right? All the data. When you're trying to use an import mode to not just for your Excel, I said, right? Even for your SQL, you can choose either direct query or an import mode as well. So when you're trying to choose any of these data connectors as an import mode, data will not get stored in any of those data sources. It will directly get pulled in your Power BI, right? Data stored in Power BI. See the end visualizations data. This entire box is about your Power BI box. Data is stored in your Power BI. Modeling will be done in your Power BI and visualizations will be created in your Power BI. That is what happens when you're trying to use an import mode. When it comes to your direct query mode, the performance is less. The data is stored right in the source, meaning your SQL database. The data is already stored in your database. You are not trying to import that data to your Power BI desktop. You have it directly under your data source. So the model should always get in touch with your data to keep itself updated, and that is why it is less in performance. Queries always had to send back to the source. No refresh is required. It will always keep itself updated. So the data source is right there in the data. The data is stored right there in your data source. And then the modeling can be done in your Power BI and the visualizations will also be done in your Power BI. Then we have a live connection. Live connection is like your SQL Server analysis services. This is very high in performance. The data might be stored at your source, but still this is very high in performance. Queries will also be sent back to your source. No refresh is required, just like your direct query, but still this is high in performance rather than your direct query. Because there is no need for the live connection to handle the modeling. It is just like your data is already stored in your data source. Modeling is done in your live connection. It is done directly in your analysis services data source. Then you just use it Power BI to only create visualizations. You cannot create DAX, you cannot create calculated columns, you cannot do a thing over there. It is just only used for visualization purpose. Now that is why you have a live connection for. Now coming to your composite connections. Now it is a combination of your direct query and your import mode. So half the data is stored in your source and half the data is like imported in your Power BI. So that is a composite connection. We use this when you have a larger volumes of your data. It's not an analysis services. When you connect half the data from your source, it is stored over there, half is coming through your Power BI. You have modeling being done in your Power BI and then we build visualizations on top of it. We will see each one of these connectivity types in live in action. Now coming to your data modeling, I always spoke about the modeling, right? Hey, Sai, you said modeling here, modeling there, even modeling in your import mode. Yes, modeling is pretty important. So when you're trying to do a data modeling, what are the different kind of options which fall under your modeling? So when you do a data modeling, you create a relationship between two different tables, right? Using a primary key. You can create a calculated column that falls under modeling. You can create a calculated table that falls under modeling. You create a new DAX measure, even that is data modeling. You create a date table with all aspects in the hierarchy like month, year, and so on. Everything falls under your data modeling. So when I said we are using a star schema in your Power BI under data modeling, the preferred model, this is what it is. We'll have facts and dimension tables in each and every tables you see. Let us discuss it with respect to an example we have. Fact and a dimension table. See, you have a sales. Sales is your fact table. Dimension is your customer table, date table, product table, salesperson table, and a store table. Let's discuss about the data modeling in a little more detailed way. So creating a relationship between two different tables using your primary keys and your foreign keys is why you use your relationship detection for. So Sai, if at all I'm trying to bring three different tables, do I have to create the relationship between them? So the relationship can have an auto detection. The relationship can also be created on your own if you know. In case if you're trying to see the sheet one is a table one and the sheet two is a table two. Now they are related with the help of production ID column, which is a foreign key here. So when you try to create a relationship between these two based on the keys you have, it will throw a relationship between them. And that's how the data modeling works. If they do not have a relation, you cannot pull the data in a particular format. We will see a few more examples when it comes to your data modeling. We spoke about the star schema earlier, isn't it? Fact table and a dimension table. Let's talk about it with an example. You understood that sales is a fact table and customer table, product table, date table are all our dimension tables. With respect to the previous star schema you have observed, correct? Now, let's talk it at with respect to an example, a live example we have in the market today. We have Amazon. What happens when you place an order? When you place an order, what is that? It has to get under the sales table, which is a fact table. So fact table is storing observations or events. What are those events? You placed an order. For that particular order, it should have an order ID, a product ID. You should have a product, the person ID, the store IDs, the price of that product, delivery ID, status ID, and so on. So all these are your facts. So what do you think? You think that, Amazon will store each and every data in only one table? That's got not possible, right? So the tables will be in such fashion. All your product related details will be under product table, like product ID. If suppose my product ID is product one, product name column will be Apple And another column in the same product table will be product cost, $1,000. And then you will see the product manufactured date, some date of the product, you know, and so on. In the customer details, the one who is trying to purchase the product, you will see a customer ID, customer name column, customer address column, and so on. Customer phone number, customer email address, customer shipping address, customer delivery address, and so on. Whatever you add in the store. The salesperson ID, salesperson name, and the other details of the salesperson. Date table. Date table contains the date column, the date day, date month, date year, and so on with respect to your date details. So these are all about your dimension tables. Now star schema is a mature modeling approach which is widely adopted by the relational data warehouses. It requires modelers to classify their model tables as either dimensions or facts. So the dimension tables can describe the business entities and the things which we model. So entities can be like your products, people, places, concepts, including time itself. Time meaning date as well. I said, right? Product table, people's table, person's table, places table, concepts, anything. Facts are like observations, events, and can be your sales orders, stock balances, exchange rates, temperatures. What if you try to pen down what do you do in a day right from you woke up? You woke up 7 o'clock and then had your breakfast at so and so time. Then you had your lunch and so on at what particular time. You can't just go back and add all these details in a day repeatedly. It's a huge data. The characters size is huge, right? So in one table, I will go back and assign, which is my dimension table. I will create a dimension table stating I woke up. Woke up is one thing, correct? Which you do it daily. So woke up is one. Breakfast, two. Work, three. Lunch, four, and so on. So when you have assigned these details in one table, which is a dimension table, when you try to use the same details under your fact table, now your fact table will be like 1, 8 o'clock, because that is when you woke up. See, the characters which are required to store that in the fact table is decreased down to 1 for that particular column. Because this is a repeated thing, you don't have to do it in a way. So for a string, the characters required is very high with respect to your data set. So we prefer using IDs, numbers, which are very less, which does not have more than 8 or 9 characters at least. So your order ID, as soon as you place an order, what is that? Some 10 numbers, 6 numbers, 7 numbers. That is the characters assigned for that particular column, order column. So that is how the fact table is generated. Creating calculated columns is pretty easy using your Power BI when it comes to your modeling. We say create under the modeling tab, a new column. You can create whatever the column you're looking for using data analysis expressions. We can create a new table using the modeling, which also uses the DAX expressions to create one. And we will do each of these one after the other. Then we have a Power BI view. So as soon as you download your Power BI desktop, you see a ribbon pane, right? This is a ribbon pane. The second one is the report view, or you can also call it as a canvas where you will add your visualizations. At the bottom, you look after pages, right? It's pages tab. And then the fourth one, which is your visualizations pane. The fifth one is your fields pane. Fields pane is nothing but you add all your data in tables, right? Each table will have columns. Now sheet one is a table and it has 4 columns. And all the tables which you have added in your Power BI can be seen here. Pretty simple. Apart from that, you can also have the filters pane here. What are the filters you would like to apply on top of this page? What are the filters you would like to apply on all the pages you have? Pretty simple. You just drag and drop the columns right here. Now we said we have visualizations, right? The default visualizations. What are the default visualizations you get to use in your Power BI? Bar and column charts, area charts, multi-row cards, single number, card visualization, donut charts, key performance indicators, gauge charts, matrix visualizations, pie chart, basic map visualizations, line chart. Q&A, I said, right, you can just ask whatever you want. This is a visualization. You could just ask a question about your data. It will throw up a visualization on top of it. Yes. See, it says top geostates by total units. You can also click on it based on the suggestions. It will also show you some reports, some visualizations based on it. Then you have a table visualization, not just by visualizations with colorful pictures. You can also show it in a table using your matrix visualization and also by your table visualization. Saib, what about the custom visualizations? Yes, custom visualizations would require the app source for us to bring them in. Then filtering a data with Power BI. Now, have you ever wondered when you're trying to filter the data you have in a web app, you say you go back and click on the filter, you say, hey, filter the data only with respect to my Telangana to see the COVID cases. Do you think that in the data, in the source data, let it be your SQL data, let it be your Excel file, do you think that a report, do you think that, once you apply that filter on top of your report, all your data will get deleted for the other visualizations? No, it's not. You just applied a filter. It does not affect the source data you have. It will only apply to that particular report only, and even not to your dashboards. It will only apply to that report. You can also start changing the view of the data for that particular visuals by using the filters. You're not even modifying the source data in any way. So that is always stays. So Sai, where do I apply the filter? Yes, I said right now under your filters pane. You just drag and drop your column. You can apply whatever you want. You can view the data with respect to that. Apart from that, you also have a slicers to report level, page level, visual level, drill through level. You can have the slices. These are the 4 type of the filters you have. When I say report level, you apply it on all the pages. Now that's a report level. When I say a page level, you will only apply to on top of this particular page. When I say only to a visual level, you select only the visual you added and then you add a filter on top of it too. Even that is also possible. When I say a drill through, you can select the hierarchy within the same visuals. Now, the one which you are looking at right here is a slicer, which is been added on top of the report. So when you change the slicer, your visualization will be interactive with respect to that. So if you would like to select a couple of them, click Control, select multiple options as well. Then we also have buttons in the Power BI. Sai, what is the use of having buttons to create a Power BI report? Using buttons just like to create an app like interface, app like experience in your Power BI. That is most important. You have an Instagram app, you click on those buttons, you navigate between your pages. Exactly. You can use the buttons here for the same page, for the same thing. You can navigate between pages too. It can help us in creating a report that just behaves like an app. Thereby, it can create an engaging environment. So the users can hover on them, click them, interact with the content. Now, when you add the buttons to the report in your desktop or in your service account, when you share the reports in your service account, this will provide you an app-like experience for the users. So Sai, so you mean to say that when you add a buttons, only in my Power BI service, it can have an app-like experience. What about my Power BI desktop? In your desktop, it is where you may do your development, but still, when you're trying to click on them, you have to use the control button. When I say an app like experience, you don't have to use a control button to click on a button, right? Same stuff. So transforming data. So we use Power Query Editor to transform data. So we bring in data from multiple data sources to your Power BI desktop. We use the Power Query Editor to transform the data, and then we create report on top of them. We publish them to your Power BI service account, and then we browse it through a web URL or your mobile apps to view the report we just created. So how do we transform the data side? So as soon as you download the Power BI desktop, you see a transform data ribbon over there. When you click on that, you will end up in your Power Query editor. Power Query editor uses M language for making transformations. So we use the Power Query editor for the same to create transformations. Adding to that, what are the other services you get when you choose an Analytics Pro by getting trained with us? So we have divided it in two packages where you get real-time projects to help you in your resume preparations, interview prepping, and we also provide you certification dumps under your package too. Placement assistance, you can call up for more details. We also provide a Power BI service account for practice, which no one provides. We also provide you a SQL database just for connection purpose to have that kind of a hands-on. What happens when you try to get that direct query mode? What happens when you try to get that import mode when you're trying to working on it? So we also provide the database as well. A SQL database connection, a Power BI service account to help you in having hands-on to practice more. We also have other packages with respect to your Azure and SQL. Call up for more details with respect to that. We also have a referral concept where if you refer someone, if you let us know that you have referred someone, which is a successful referral, you get paid 1,000 rupees for that. So the regular sessions will automatically commence right from tomorrow. So with this, I will stop here to see if you have any questions for me.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Yes, Naveen.
Yeah, sir, I have a doubt regarding dimensions and fact table.
Mhm.
Does the fact table always stores some numerical values? I mean, product ID like that?
So when you are trying to work on your fact tables, that itself is having a summarized data. So when I say fact tables, when you mention that product ID or whatever, see, organizations can have a product ID in its own ways. For example, they can store a product ID in ID 0001 or ENFG 000789. So it's just not the numbers. The product ID can be anything. It is the characters which we are talking about when we mention here about your product IDs or the other columns you have. So when it comes to your values or cost or the other stuff, you can see them coming in number columns, the whole number of that particular columns you have. So we will see in more detail when we take the sales data while we working in the regular sessions. You will see more details coming up. You will see a lot of examples coming up with respect to the sales data, which I will show you directly where it contains your sales, which is your fact table. And you also see some dimension tables, just like the one which we discussed, your product tables, your customer details, and so on.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Mhm.
And apart from that, we have an additional course for SQL, right?
Mhm.
SQL, we have, I mean, you mentioned some points. We need to discuss about only those points.
So yes, so this is not the right time to discuss about the sequel stuff. I request you to please do call back to us so where we can discuss about a lot with respect to your sequel about those.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes. All right. So with this, we'll call it a day. Yes, Mamata, you have something?
Yeah, I just have a question. Do
Mhm.
we need any SQL experience for this Power BI, Sai?
Okay, so let's assume now that you know the organization in which you work on to create a report. So you might require a little SQL experience, at least to connect those databases, to at least to bring those queries right to your Power BI to bring them in. So what happens when you're trying to build a report is like not all the transformations are required to be done in Power BI. So a lot of transformations can also be done using your SQL as well. So organizations may expect you to work right in your SQL, just get the data to your Power BI so that the performance is not getting impacted in your Power BI, and then the report looks good. So having SQL experience is great, and in case if that is required, yes, as I said, if there is nothing, no knowledge and zero knowledge if you have with regards to your SQL, we also recommend you to please have a little hands-on and a side by side when you're trying to work on this course as well, just to ensure some at least basic stuff where which is required a lot for us to get back to in. So Why do we use a SQL to your Power BI is just to bring in the data. Once you bring the data, each and every transformation, every measure, all the visualizations part, sharing this in your service account will be handled under your Power BI only. So few organizations will also provide a SQL team where we will approach them to request them to, this is what the data we have been looking after. Just provide us the query which is required for it. And you go back and straight away paste the code in your Power BI to bring that data. And again, as I said, it depends upon organization to organization. Having a little experience on your SQL will always give you that edge over working on these reports.
Mm-hmm. So basic knowledge is enough,
At
you mean?
least, at
Yeah.
least.
Okay.
We
So
we may not be a SQL developer. We may not be a SQL admin. At least we need to know what is the query we are trying to bring in and what are the columns which is reflecting when we're trying to use it.
mm-hmm. Okay. So when we are connecting to the database, actually the column names are so and so. When you are using the SQL query, we
Mhm.
need to know what is column names, right? If you are not getting all the data, like not we are not doing select star from.
Mhm.
How do we know actually?
So those informations, whenever you join any organization, their database details, their column details is something which we will not be aware of. So when we are trying to create a report on top of those bases, they will provide us a document stating which columns we have to use to bring it to the Power BI to create a report on top of them. So a documentation will be provided and they have to provide because an organization can have a lot of servers. Each server can hold hundreds of databases and we may not know how many of those databases can are directly connected with respect to their primary keys and the foreign keys they have and how many of them where we can go back and pull the data. So it's a very huge thing when it comes to your database. So that is why they will always have a SQL team getting ready with respect to these details so that when we ask them for such kind of request, they provide us the output because they are the ones who know in and out of those details. Assume if your database is the smallest one, they will just provide you a document, ask us to create a report or ask us to write our own query details to bring whatever the data we are looking after. And that's how we will work on.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Mhm.
One more question actually.
Mhm.
Generally, when you get the requirement, right?
Mhm.
How do they provide? Actually, they will send an email, or what is the way to they provide the requirement?
Yes, so it could be anything depending upon how do they follow their rules. So the basic thing is always about having a documentation when we are creating a report. So let us assume now we are developing a report. So we need to have a proper understanding about what we have to build. So either it could be provided in your document or few organizations will just provide you in an email or they will have a call, a scrum meeting daily in the morning for the 15 minutes to discuss what requirements needs to be fulfilled and what adjustments has to be done to get them correct. And not just that, people in an organization, they also hire us just to support the reports which have been already created by someone else. So not just developing, we also do the support of those reports as well. We may not have to provide the entire development of the report from the scratch, not in every organization. They already have hundreds of reports. The work for us is to just to ensure the reports are good and running and have access to all the users. And if they say that, hey, can you provide access for our report? We go back and add the access for them. Even that is also one kind of work which we do in our Power BI. So as I said again, the requirements can vary. The way they project for those requirements could differ. A lot of things can happen. Again, it depends upon organization. So there is no proper way of explaining that, this is what I've been looking after. It depends upon requirements again,
Mhm.
organization to organization.
Okay, yeah, got it. Thanks.
But as I said, these are the most basic things. You can expect any one of these to be for sure. Any one of these three. Either they will call and tell us, they will send us in an email, or they will also provide a document, or all the three can happen, or only two can happen. Anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
I
Yes.
have another doubt regarding the same thing.
Mhm.
If TLPM assigns the task to us, I
Mhm.
mean, we need to create an full report, or they'll give it's like some a special task like that. I mean, some part of task like that.
Okay, so whenever they ask you to create a report, what they would do is like, they might provide you a template. So they can provide you a template stating that, hey, this is how I would like my report to look like. This is, you can refer to this report and work on our requirement. Next, they can also say, they'll provide you an ample time to work on a specific task. Let us assume you have to create a report. You just can't do it in a day. You require a lot of time for those. So sprint, one sprint is equal to 1 month of time, correct? So when you're trying to work on that detail, what they do is like they will provide you ample time to work on that particular task requirement. It could be anything. You might face challenges as well. You get back to your manager the next day. You will tell them that, hey, this is the kind of an issue we are how facing while creating this. What could be the reason? And I see that there is some error popping up, so I have to do a workaround for this, and then it fixed. I was able to fix the issue. I was able to create the report as is. So I'm just informing you, is this the right way? Do you think that there's something, a dependency on top of it, and it could go wrong? And any task when they will provide you, it will take at least like 4 to 5 days for us to work on them, depending upon the priority of the task. They say that, just can you make a visualization with a bar chart, having an axis for your date and having a y-axis as a sales amount. This is a very simplest requirement. It can be done in under 5 minutes. Next, they say, hey, I would like you to create a moving average based on a particular columns. Now that is a time taking. You have to do a little, invest some time to see if you have the right column details, and whatever it has to be done could be half day or a day or a two as well. So time frames working on those tasks depend upon the requirements, and be pretty sure they will not force you to show it as quick as possible. They will just give you your own time to figure it out. Is it good, Naveen?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Still any more questions? Mamata, Naveen, just in case if you're wondering with respect to that. All right. So let's catch up in the regular sessions from tomorrow in the same time frame. All right, I'll ensure to bring in the others as well. So they will also be able to join in. Maybe they didn't want it a day to demo, whatever it is. I will just contact them and try to get in as soon as possible. All right. Don't worry about it. From tomorrow, we will have a regular sessions right from the same time, 6 to 7.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Thanks, guys. Bye.